Walay
Sir.
HVAC na nasagol?
Wala, sir.
Anyways, pwede naman sad maminaw ang taga HVAC just in case. Kay naman daw kuno schedule ang HVAC nga 10 AM unta, nya sa man ni nga problematic man ang atong connectivity. So okay na, proceed na ta. Sige, very
Yes,
good,
sir.
very good. Now, we stopped at the testimonial of Miss Montillin. So atong balikon. Now, according to her, during my OJT, I was able to learn a lot of things which helped me improve my trade skills. At first, I was like, suguon ko og panglimpyo sa sakyanan sa amo manager, pabayron og bills and other things. Later, slowly, I was exposed to various jobs and started as a helper to one of the machine operators. Luckily, I was paired with a good employee. He taught me things which has helped me a lot in machine operation. Accidents really do happen in the workplace. Even those who were already working in the shop for several years are still susceptible. I have seen it myself. If I have to give advice to would-be OJTs or new workers, it would be the value of safety. Safety lessons taught at school by our teachers is really very important and useful. Now, let's try to check the testimony of Miss Montillien. Now, you have heard a couple of times, so many times, sa puol na paminaw no, about safety. Ganina nangutana ko ni Chua, or rather ninyong tanan, ako lang gi-point out si Chua, kung nakahibaw na ba mo kung unsa ka delikado ang trabaho sa usa ka mechanical technologist, which is kamo. Then many of you said nga delikado gyud. We have made mention about maputlan og tudlo. Actually napay worse ana. And if I remember it right, he was a student here in the PIT main campus. This was a long time ago, but he is one of my batchmates. BSI EDCO, Education, siya BSI IT, but ang among major pareha, which is Machine Shop Technology or now known as Mechanical Technology. Naka-follow ra mo sa akong istorya, paspas ra or unsa ba?
Okay.
Okay ra, masabtan ra akong istorya.
Putol, sir.
Gamay, sir.
Pero ma-hook up ra man ka ha. Yes, okay.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Putol, sir.
he is from Lumonon. I just forget the family name. Kana karon ang iyang agtang metal na na. Unsay nahitabo? Nagtangtang siya og piston ring karon kay ang piston ning ulpot man nya nagpaduol man siya sa iyang trabaho. Diri siyang agtang kahanak ang piston. Now, take note, lahi ang piston ring, lahi pun ang piston. Ang piston mo katong ulpot-ulpot kana sa sakyanan. Makarelate ani ang automotive. Now, since mechanical technology, we're in charge in fabrication of spare parts. So, ang hitabo ato is repair, ning ungot, gitangtang, kumpiyansa. Naman tayo giingon nga one of the basic safety practice is to position your body a little away from your work. Subot pasabot, dili nimo itungod ang imong lawas sa mismong trabaho nimo. Labi na kung moving or it has the possibility of moving. Mo to'y nahitabo sa iya. Maayong pagkakrak sa iyang agtang. So yes, to cut the story short,
Patron siya, sir.
accident. So dili na siya, di ta makaingon ba nga 100% siya just like before. Whether we will admit it or not, naa nagay something sa iya nga wala na, dili na 100%, tungod lang sa accident. Now I want you to always remember that, again, based sa testimony ni Basilio, you have to maintain presence of mind. If you have that presence of mind, dili mahitabo makalimot ka about safety. Because no matter how good you are of a worker, bisan pag ikaw ang best worker, bisan pag ikaw ang pinaka-fastest worker, it all becomes useless once you meet an accident. Naama ginay trauma factor. So, bisan pag unsa kagamay ang imong maagian nga aksidente or injury, na ginay trauma factor. So according to Clea, safety lessons taught at school by your teachers is really very important and useful. So take heed of that. Now, moving forward, arita sa sunod nato nga naghataw testimony. Now, pasensya na, food tech ni siya because I was thinking ang entire OJT population mo join karon. And somehow happy lang gyapon ko nga machinist ang naka-schedule kay at least ang atong mga language atong kumbaga technical language magkapare-pareha ra mag-abot ra. Now, another testimony is from Miss Catherine Suchesa Pingos. She is a BSIT Food Technology student. Now, according to her, when I had my OJT, I never thought that I would be able to succeed. I am from an unknown school in the province, a school with a very limited facilities. My fellow OJTs were from prestigious universities in different cities. I was very intimidated. Our OJT officer was very supportive. I remember him saying, ayaw og kahadlok, ayaw i-underestimate ang imo kaugalingon, not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Every day that was my motivation. I worked hard, attend to my work without being late or absent, and I did my job, my best in every task given to me without complaint. Now my efforts paid off as I was constantly praised by my supervisors. I have bested all of my co-OJTs in every evaluation, and I was given the highest mark that they have ever given to an OJT. My personal advice to would-be OJTs or those who wish to apply for work now is for you to have dedication in your work. Trust your teachers, trust your training at school, and trust yourself. It is not about the school where you come from, whether your school has the top of the line facilities or not. Rather, it is about how willing and courageous you are to get the job done. Now, unsa may bot ipasabot ni Miss Pingos? Now again, I want you to remember that these students are from PIT Tabango campus. Now, the Tabango campus is has a very limited facilities. Bisan ang among machine shop technology dito, limited ra ang facilities, unlike here in the main campus. Now, according to her, and soon, manarbaho man kaha mo, ingon pa ni Chua, mga apply man kuno siya, abi na ako magtuko ning negosyo kay Chua, mga dato ning Chua sir, no? Now, according to her, to him, manarbaho man kuno siya. Now, you can place this in your resume that you are willing to dedicate yourself to the company. You are willing to dedicate yourself to the job that you are applying for. Klaro? May idea na kakaroon? Klaros? Naapa si Klaros? Okay. So, dedication. Unsa may bot pasabot sa dedication? When could we say that a certain person has dedication? Now, of course, if you are doing your job to the best of your capability, that is dedication. If you go to your job, you go to work every day without being absent, avoiding uh, without being late, I mean, and avoiding absences, that is dedication. Now, if you continue to improve yourself day after day, that is extreme dedication. Maihap lang sa tudlo ang mga tao sa tibuok kalibutan nga ingana. Nga they are willing to beat their old self day after day just to improve at their task, to improve at their profession. And that is very important. And that is worth writing for in your resume. Now let's move forward. Now let's try to have the testimony of Mr. Domingo Gripo. Now Mr. Gripo is a BSIT automotive. Now I recall my OJT experience was fun and challenging. The job was difficult but rewarding. I learned a lot of things. I met various workmates with different attitudes. Some are nice, some are naughty. Sometimes you have to get along with the people you don't like just to get the job done. Nawa na sad siya, sir. Nawa na sad ang connection.
Sir, ang pagpadayo lang sir, ako lang i-YouTube na lang.
Mo ba?
Ang recording nyo yan. Ako lang naging ipon sa ilan.
Sige.
Discuss mo na sir. Session na lang na sila diba?
Okay. Mabati ko ninyo. Makatra nimo siya. Makatra nimo. Matrim ra din nimo video pod. Sige.
Kanang ko ni mo na error. Kanang kasi bugat na sa pwede na cut. Ako lang sila i-chat na ako lang ko nga mo sa video.
Video na lang sila mo continue.
Oo.
Sige, kaya ako na lang pong i-kuan noon dire, full screen ako ang presentation. Mag-assume na lang ko. Okay, so moving forward, agree. Wala. Ilet lang nako.
Ato na sila. Naka-join pa sila.
I-out na lang nako.
Ato na sila.
Okay.
Sir, ako lang sila chatan sir.
Sige. Ako yung kayo.
May tayo ngayon. Ito na personal. Sa online lang yung chat.
Sige, ako na lang ikuan diri. Isumpay na lang din mo. Di na lang kumubalik sa pilmero.
Ayun.
Sige.
Ako lang upload kung may mga kuha na connection.
Okay, so moving forward, now I recall my OJT experience was fun and challenging. This is according to Mr. Domingo Gripo. Now the job was difficult but rewarding. I learned a lot of things. I met various workmates with different attitudes. Some are nice, some are naughty. Sometimes you have to get along with the people you don't like just to get the job done. Now based on my experience, I could say that workplace communication is essential in industry. With good workplace communication comes smooth company operation and production. Conflicts among workers, clients, and administration can be avoided and resolved. So, unsa may but ipasabot ni Gripo? Now, when you are at work, you have to be able to communicate with your workmates, not just your bosses, but also your workmates, and even to the clients and other people that might be visiting in the company where you are working. So take note that good workplace communication is not just about being able to talk. Rather, it is about being able to exchange communication in a good manner. So you have to be polite, you have to be respectful, at the same time, you have to be attentive to what they are talking. Dili man na pwede nga ikaw lang ang nagsigig istorya niya, kung sila yung istorya dili ka maminaw. So that is a one-sided communication or one-sided talk. So communication is somehow a good exchange of talks. Now, according to him, with good workplace communication comes smooth company operation and production. Now, this is very true. Now, most of the conflicts, whether that company is a big one or a small one, whether that company is there in the industry for such a long time or a newly found company or newly formed company rather. Now, workplace communication plays a vital role. That is also one of the competence that employers might be looking from their future employee. Now, with good workplace communication, conflicts. Now, conflicts. When we talk about conflicts, now we could say that we are dealing with problems. So problems can be solved through good communication. So that is why you need to practice good workplace communication if you wish to succeed in whatever work that you are wishing to have in the near future. Now, those are the testimonies from various students, few selected students rather, which I have talked for the sake of this work today, or this what do you call this webinar. Now let's try to discuss, or let's try to talk about the work attitudes that most of the companies are looking for from their future employees or prospective employees. Now, first and foremost, it's punctuality. So, what does it mean to be punctual? What is punctuality? Now, punctuality, it talks about attending to your workplace, to your workstation, earlier than the scheduled time. Before, we are taught to come on time. But nowadays, to come on time is not an assurance that you can be punctual. There are some circumstances which might affect if you come just at the nick of a time, no? So it would be better if you come to your work a couple of minutes before your actual time of duty. Avoiding absences, that is part of being punctual. Now, although finishing your job ahead of time can be thought, or can be thought of something about speed when it comes to working, but it could also be part and parcel of punctuality. So as you can see, it's a broad term which entails timeliness. So this is about time, and time is precious. In industries, time is one of the most integral part. The competency, the competitive edge of a company relies on time. What do I mean? Say for example, na ay magpa-repair sa inyo o let's say spare parts sa sakyanan, and although it is not a type of job nga rush gyud, you are given ample time to get the job done. Now imagine the reaction of your customer if you can finish the job ahead of time and you bring to him the good news that the job is already done and he can use that particular spare part. Now that's competitive edge. Now you can build a marketing edge in your company. Of course, ang mga tao mo yun na adto ta didto kay paspas mo trabaho. Pulido mo trabaho. Muingon ka nga kini nga trabaho pwede ra ni after 2 days. Kung makaya nila nga trabahoon in 1 day, ilan ang trabahoon. So of course, mudaghan ang inyong customers. And your employer will be happy with you. Now let's move on to the next. Work attitude. Workplace communication skills, or otherwise known as social skills. Now, workplace communication skills, this is not about kanang mga gossip. Take note, lahi ng gossip, lahi po ng workplace communication. For example, if there is a chain of command within the company, like this particular job can be done in various departments or will have to undergo in various departments. Now imagine if you don't have that workplace communication skills. Nasipyat ka paghatag og usa ka information towards the next department. Unsay mahitabo sa trabaho? Of course, palpak. And again, you're in an industry where competitive is very high. Lahi ang trabaho sa private firm o sa public firm. In the public firm, dili ko moingon nga medyo super relax, pero relax gyud siya jutay compared to private firms. Sa private firms manggon, ang kompetensya taas kaayo. Especially today, where technologies are advancing. Sa una, pirwik ganito, pero karon murag kada adlaw na ibagong technology nga ma-develop, na bagong technology nga ma-innovate. So ing ana kapaspas ang transition sa time karon. Now, okay, so we're done with workplace communication skills or social skills. Now let's move on to the next. Now, work attitudes, competence, or trade skills. So, muna gihisgutan ganina sa usa sa mga participants, no? Ang resume dapat kuan daw as na something like competence. Now, when it comes to work attitude, what does competence mean? Now, competence is all about being proficient enough in doing the task at hand. The level of your skills, it's about competence. The way you do things in a safe manner, fast, and on point, that's competence. There are those people who are, let's say, they have the necessary skills to do a particular task, say welding for example. They have the skills in welding. However, it could be said that they're not yet competent. Why? How come? Because skills alone would not suffice or is not sufficient for you to become competent. Take note that there are a lot of things that is what do you call this? There are a lot of things which comprises a competence. Now, safe working habits, measurements, accurateness, finishing touches. Now, the type of, if it is welding, then the type of welding beads, the type of weld pass, and when it comes to milling operation, the type of gear that you are working on, all those measurements, shapes, and sizes must be met with accuracy, and all the surface finish must be must be met. So that's competence. Another thing that we could say that one is competent at the task that he is doing is his ability to work or to use the machines and tools with dexterity, with ease, nang dili ba balikwaot tan-awon ba. Now that's competence, and it plays a major factor in becoming a competent person. So that's one. Now let's move on to the next. Flexibility kini aligri ni. Now, when could we say that a worker, an employee, is flexible? I made mention in the early part of this discussion or this talk today, I made mention about your willingness to work for or work beyond your regular working hours, work during holidays whenever necessary. That's part of being flexible. That's flexibility. But it is not only limited on that. Say for example, you are paired with now let me rephrase it. Now let's try to assume that your company has 2 branches, and then suddenly the branch B has a shortage on workforce, so they have to ask for assistance from your branch A. So you will be working with the people, you are chosen to work with them, by the way. So you will be working with people whom you do not know completely. Worst, people whom you have met for the first time. Now, if you are able to get along with them, work with them with ease as if you have worked with them for such a long time, that's flexibility. And prior to that, your willingness to accept the challenge of being a support workforce for that branch B, it shows your flexibility. Flexibility, the willingness to take the challenge to become flexible at work. Another thing, let's say lathe machine operator jud ka. For 10 months, lathe machine operator jud ka. Suddenly, tungod sa kadanghag, nagmaoy ang inyong milling machine operator. So bakante, nahitabo nga ang trabaho, most of the work nga nakontrata sa inyong company for this particular month relies heavily on milling machine operator or operation. So mag-need yun og milling machine operator. And since you are a mechanical technology, you have the background knowledge, ikaw na sad ang gibuno. Now, sa willingness palang daan nga musugot ka nga ikaw mo puli temporarily sa milling machine operator, you are displaying your flexibility. On a higher level, higher scale, your performance, if you can perform well with the jobs, the tasks that are or that will be assigned to you based on the contracts nga naa sa inyong company, matrabaho nimo tanan, makuha nimo ang tanan nga demand sa customer, then you are displaying your flexibility. So in other words, ikaw mo'y klase sa worker na kumbaga bisan asa ilabay ba, bisan asa ilabay, bisan unsa nga trabaho ipatrabaho nimo, makaya nimo. That is flexibility. And walay company, be it private, be it public, be it gamay nga company or dako nga company, sikat or dili sikat nga company, walay company nga dili mangita og ing-ana nga klase sa employee. So you have to develop that kind of work attitude. And after this, sa ako nang giingon ninyo, of course, you will be looking for a job, mag-apply mo. Then, why don't you invest on flexibility? Try to be flexible. While wala pa ka sa work, i-condition da ng imong huna-huna, ang imong yeah, huna-huna ang imong mental capacity imo na ang i-condition nga you have to be flexible. Now let's move on to the fifth work attitude, adaptability. Now as you can see, naay duha ang atong adaptability. Adaptability nga O o adaptability nga A. What's the difference? Arita sa adaptability nga O, you have to adapt. Kaya ang adaptability nga A sa mga arte manulti may sila adapt. So ang usa adapt, ang usa adapt. So arita sa adapt, ang O, adaptability. Meaning unsay imong nakita, let's focus on best practices. Daghan ka makita good things and bad things. Always remember to get only the good things. Best practices. So if you are able to get those best practices, put it into practice, and eventually perform those best practices, then you are adaptable. You have that adaptability. Ang dili tanang tao naaana nga klase sa skills. So, again, that's a competitive edge. So, mo na siya ang adaptability. Kaya nimo nga kuhaon or i-inculcate sa imong kaugalingon ang usa ka skill or kinaiya ba kaha or what do you call this, work attitude in general. That's adaptability. Now arita sa adaptability A, so may kalainan pud ani niya. When could you say that you are able to adapt? For instance, sa akong example ganina, lahi ang environment sa company A o company B. Now, if you are able to blend in the company B and you are from company A, that's adaptability. Meaning, you are able to act like you are from that particular company. You are what do you call this? You are capable of fully adjusting yourself to conform to the environment where you are exposed to. And this is about culture, the work culture of the company. For instance, lain-lain ang tao, lain-lain ang attitude. Dili kalikayan na gitay mga tao nga bisag walay sa ato no bugat jud ang atong buot ba. I'm pretty sure nakasuway mo na. At some point in your life nakasugat jud mong tao nga na mahibong ka wa maginisa na ako ni tawhanan anong lain magidi akong buot ani niya. Magmuulbog akong kaspa ani niya bisag wa siya gibuhat something nga na. Now imagine that those are the people that you have to work with. So if you are not able to adapt, malahi ka. Ikaw may malahi. Dili ka mo survive ana nga work environment. Ending, muundang ka trabaho. Ang ending, resign. Or worse, ang ending, mahimo kang kung baga thorn among the roses. Ikaw ang lahi, dili ka problemado jud unta, pero murag sa tan-aw sa mga tao diha, ikaw ang problema, ikaw may lahi. So that is how important adaptability is. Now take note, one of the testimonies given to us or shared to us, it talks about getting along with the people you don't like just to get the job done. That is adaptability. So I hope klaro ninyo karon ang kalainan sa adaptability nga O ug adaptability nga A. kay usahay ma-used siya interchangeably, although may semantics naman lang na good, pero yes, it's good to know nga nakahibaw ka sa difference. And mind you, that is one of those competencies, work attitudes nga gikinahanglan sa usa ka worker. Now, I never shared to you about my experiences in job. Ang testimonials nga akong gihatag sa inyo was all about the OJTs from the previous school where I'm working. Now, allow me to share to you my personal. This is my personal experience. I'm a teacher by profession, so basically wala ko'y OJT, but na ako'y practice teaching. Now, dili lang ta mo focus sa practice teaching. Now, I was able to work in a call center industry. Nag-call center agent ko for 6 months. We're trained, of course, training, seminars, etc. Now, we are exposed to on-the-job training. So, napo ko experience di ay sa OJT. Now, here are my experiences during the OJT. Katutan ang gisulti sa mga students nga atong gi-feature diri sa testimonials. It's really true. Now, of course, during our OJT, naagyo nang mahadlok yung kumo tuslok sa computer, mahadlok kumo tuslok sa mga gadgets nga naa sa among call center company. Unsa man di kalainan? I don't know, wala ko kahibaw nganong parihar man yun nga computer ang imo makita sa kanang computer nga nas gawas, pero ambot nganong mahadlok ko siguro na at the back of my mind basin na i-program nga mapislit na ko nga di angayan something ingana. So naagitay ka nang gitawag nato og machine phobia. No? Bang first try pagali nato sa usa ka butang, magduha-duha gid ta. I'm not saying it's bad because it's good for most of the time, but somehow you have to control it. And mo na usa sa mga butang na inyong ma-experience po niya pohon manarbaho mo. Muan mo agi mo na. Sugot mo sa dili, mo angkon mo sa dili, whether you will admit it or not, moabot mo na. Anyways, sa una man lang na siya. So yeah. Now, we have that thing called as machine phobia. Now, it can be easily overcome. Once makahikap na ka, okay na. Now, how to beat it? Of course, you just have to listen carefully to the instructions. Dili man po na isa lang kadayon. Ay kabala ka, kay dili man ka basta na po isa lang. Kumbaga, i-dry run ang imong abilidad. Dili man na ingana. Again and again, naa ka sa industry. So, meaning, ang imong sipyat, dako og epekto sa company. And the company won't allow that. So, they have to be careful. Of course, at their end. Now, on your end, all you have to do is to listen carefully to the instruction. If there is something that you have to read, read. Read it comprehensively. Now, another experience which I have, problems on various attitudes. Of course, di na siguro na bago sa inyo no nga ang mga nagtrabaho sa call center agent, medyo mga hyper ang nature ani nga mga klase sa mga tao. So here comes a teacher by profession, trained as a teacher, musod sa mga medyo hyper nga mga tao, so you can do the math. So what I did is to use the skills, the work attitudes which I have also shared to you. I learned to adapt. And I learned to adopt. Akong gi-estudyuhan ang ilang kinaiya. And wala na ako what do you call this? Gi-invalidate ang ilang kinaiya. Meaning wala ko moingon nga ang ilang kinaiya sayop, ang ilang kinaiya bati. No. Akong gi-estudyuhan, akong gi-tanaw. Yeah, maybe bati para sa uban, but at the end of the day, they're good people. and wala na nila gibuhat nga mga attitude para maka-offend sa uban. So why not? So ning blend in ko. There are also things, mga personal attributes nga naa nila nga wa sa ako, which is good. So I adapted those things. That is why I'm really confident to say nga ang Charles Lumbay way back 2013 and ang Charles Lumbay karon 2022 makaingon jud ko nga lahira. Because our experiences will bring about change in us, within ourselves. It changes our capacity, our ability, our skills, our competence. Then of course, yes, during our training, I learned nga lahi ra gyud ang butang sa lecture lang nimo makita, sa mga libro lang nimo mabasa. Lahi pud ang mga butang naa na gyud sa workplace na gyud. Na gyud imo na gong gina-apply. So, presence of mind. Sakto ang gihatag nga testimony sa atong featured students. You have to have that presence of mind. Dapat kabalo ka kung unsa ang nature sa trabaho, unsa ang gidemand sa trabaho. You need to be very what we call this. You need to be very keen about those details. So, diha lang mo sa ang akong i-share sa inyo, no? Because of course, I understand nga tawagan ni murag budlay pud kung sobra ra gid kayo ka daghan ang atong information overload kumbaga. So arita sa next nga information nga akong i-share sa inyo. No? Humanata sa mga testimony, humanata sa work attitudes nga gipangita sa mga company. Arita sa things nga angay ninyong buhaton. What are the things that you need to do? Siyempre, mangita pa mo trabaho. And once makatrabaho mo, naagi na nga muagi mo sa part or muagi mo sa level nga obserbahan mo sa inyong mga supervisors, mga head, mga managers, or the human resource department. So, muagi mo evaluation. So, there are things that you need to do. If you really love your profession, you really love your job, you want to spend your life to that profession, to that vocation, whatsoever, then these are the things that you need to do. One is for you to develop self-discipline. Saan na self-discipline? For instance, karon palang daan, webinar ta. Of course, dili ko makasiguro nga naamo diha sa pikas linya na minaw pa mo. Wala ko kahibaw kung unsay inyong aktual nga gibuhat diha sa pikas linya. Basig ang inyong gibantayan ang bati ra nako nga dagway. Inyo ra kong gihimong kataw-anan diha sa pikas linya. Now, for you to do those things, of course, that is not good. That is something that is not so nice. So it involves discipline. Now, if you are one of those people on the other line nga naminaw jud kag may sa akong istorya, gitry nimo nga sabton ang akong istorya, ang akong mga gi-share nga information, ang akong gi-share nga piece of knowledge, then that is something that is very good. And to maintain that concentration, that level of interest, that needs or it demands self-discipline. So I believe walay laing tao maka disiplina nato no effectively kundi ang ato ra gyud kaugalingon. So you have to be disciplined, self-discipline. Next, you need to be responsible. You need to be accountable. So na responsible. Sir, kano sa amang ka makaingon nga ang usa ka tawo responsible. If you are doing the jobs or the tasks assigned to you, even without your supervisors looking at you, even without your workmates observing you, without the fear of being reported or whatsoever, that's being responsible. Doing your assigned tasks in a manner that is in accordance to the company rules, to the demand of the clients, customers, that's being responsible. That's responsibility. And here is the catch. Admitting your mistakes, which is very, very hard, that is part of being responsible. And at the same time, being accountable. You have to be responsible with your actions. Yes, nasayop ka. Pero wala na magpasabot nga dautan na ka nga tao. So why not kung masayop ka, ang kuno nimo nga nasayop ka. I'm sure kasuway mo ana nasayop mo pero wala ninyo gi-admit. Lisod para ninyo nga dawaton nga nasayop ka. That's being irresponsible. And you're not practicing accountability. So kinsa man day imong pakasad-on sa imong sayop ang laing tao. So mauna na nga mag-point finger na. Imo nang tudloon ang laing tao. Asiya man gud to mo nakaamong. Then comes the conflict. Tungod sa imong pagka-irresponsible, naka-create ka og conflict. So nailaing tao nga na-involve. And that's a no-no. So again, be responsible. Be accountable. Next, you have to dedicate yourself to the job. Kada sa matang ingon nga dedicated ang usa ka tao. I believe na mention ko na in the previous slides, no? In the previous discussion. So di lang na to i-explore pag maayo. Let's move on to the next. Be competent, not competitive. Mas may akong buot ipasabot ana. Competent ko no. Kunya dili ko pwedeng competitive. Yes, they are somehow related. They are somehow what do you call this? Enmesh. Kumbaga sa gear pa mag-abot na sila. But they are completely different things. And depending upon the situation, one is completely positive and the other is negative. What do I mean? Be competent. Meaning, you have to be skilled. You have to be proficient. You have to be not just good, but very good. You may not be the best, but you are one of those people who are very good with your job. Now, competitive. Kano samtang kayo nga competitive? Kanang makikompetensya ka sa uban. Kanang gusto ka nga ikaw lang ang maayo, ikaw ang best, ikaw ang kamao. That's being competitive, and that is very wrong. That is why you just have to be competent but not competitive. But pasabot. Paninguha nga maayo ka sa imong trabaho, kamao ka sa imong trabaho, you can give more than what is expected of you, but not to the point nga makigkompetensya na ka sa uban. Because from there, kanang imong competitive nature muna siya muhatag og mga negative imprints sa imong pagkatao. So I hope inyo nang timan-an, because as time goes by, magtika-add up ang inyong knowledge, magtika-add up ang inyong skills, ang inyong humility mawagtang. What do I mean? Pagsud ninyo pirmero sa trabaho, mura mong mga itoy. Pero once na madugay na mo sa trabaho, medyo matagas na inyong sungay. Because you are becoming competitive. Yes, you are competent. Granted, competent na ka. Pero ningabot po ka sa level na competitive na ka, which is wrong. So, bantayin yun na ninyo pirmi. Next, have presence of mind. Importante ni siya. Ano man? Without presence of mind, di man kakabalo kanus ani mo disiplinahon ng imong kaugalingon. So self-discipline mawagtang. Without presence of mind, you don't know what are your duties and responsibilities. So di na ka responsible, di na ka accountable. Without presence of mind, kalimot na ka unsaon yung pagdedicate ang imong kaugalingon para sa imong trabaho. So mawa tanan. Nakahibaw ka somehow sa inyong OJT webinar, nahisgutan nga you have to be competent but not competitive, but since you don't have that presence of mind, nawagtang nalimtan. So mora sad na kining tanan nga atong gipang share karon sa atong webinar, this series of webinar dili lang ang akong gi-share kundi ang gi-share pod sa uban nga mga presenters, mga resource speakers, and the set of resource speakers to come. Have presence of mind. Have presence of mind in listening to what they are sharing to you. Have presence of mind in understanding and inculcating it to yourself. Familiarizing those things and keeping it in mind. Next, be respectful. I think since elementary days, pirmi natang makabatian respect. Naana sa mga elementary nga mga rooms, respect. Be respectful. Unsa man ang respectful? Meaning, you recognize individual differences. So, if you recognize individual differences, you know for a fact nga lahi siyag kinaiya, lahi siyag abilidad. So when there comes a time nga na ay clash sa inyong idea, you don't have to really argue to the bones, hardcore nga argument. All you have to do is to respect his idea. You do not what do you call this? You do not directly invalidate his idea. You respect it. You don't have to follow what he said. You don't have to really do the things that he said. But still, you can be respectful. For instance, kini karon nga webinar nato. I understand this is boring. And I understand there are lots of technical problems that we are facing, the connectivity ever since the start of this webinar. But if you are respectful enough and you stayed online, you stayed listening to me at this very point, then congratulations. You're one of those people who are respectful to your resource speaker, and thank you for that. Now, be responsive. Ano sa manang be responsive? Be responsive meaning you are willing to be ready at all times. Sa may pasabot. Para sa mga example kanina, nagkuwang ang tao, kinahanglan og tao, pairiton ka, kuhaon ka as backup, as support what do you call this, support personnel, then you have to be responsive. You have to, kung di gid kaya, you have to say no. Then say no. Dili kay i-left hanging nimo ang usa ka tawo. Responsive. Nakakita ka nga naglisod ang imong kauban. Nya ikaw wala kay gibuhat. You're free. Timing lang yun nga na nahuman po kasi mong trabaho. Although bago pa lang ka nahuman sa imong trabaho, busy po ka, nagkasingot-singot po ka, pero naglisod man siya tabang eh. That's being responsive. So, you're always ready to lend a hand. That's being responsive. Nay problema ang company, na kay nahuna-hunaan nga solusyon. Unya di nimo i-share. That's not being responsive. You have to share it. As long as it's good for the company, as long as it doesn't violate any rules and regulation set by the company, share it. Makitabi pa manggani ta usahay no, manglibak pa manggani ta sa ubang tao, kana na ba no mga mayong idea dili na to i-share. So that's it. Now, let's move to the other side of the coin. There are things that you need to do. Now there are also things that you need to avoid. What are the things that you need to avoid? First is gossiping. Ano nang gossiping? Mas hindi nang gossiping sir. Aware na ta nga na yung mga marites no. O kana marites. Nagtabi mo nonsense. Why problema magtabi basta tabi about trabaho, about sa general welfare sa company, okay ra na siya. Pero gossiping to the point nga nonsense na kayo, negative man gud ang word nga gossiping by nature negative na siya. But it doesn't have to be negative at all times. Wala to akong ganyan na, pwede naman mag-gossip pero para sa welfare sa company or welfare sa workforce ninyo nga mga trabahante. Now, avoid delinquent attitude. Unsa man ang delinquent attitude? Reklamadora kaayo ka, na gani trabaho, musugot man tuod ka pero naagi bagi-ibi, unsa man bagi-ibi, naagi bagot-bot gamay ba? Siguro ang bagot-bot nga tunayboan is through words. Pero naibagot-bot nga through body language ba? Mga yamid, ang ingana ba, mga style or pinaliraw sa mata or kanang mga normal nga buhaton sa mga bata gani kung naa sila di mauyunan unya di nila ipahalata. That's delinquent attitude. Another is doing things that are against the policy of the company. That's delinquent attitude. Now, conflict. You have to avoid conflict. Anong kinahanglan mang likayan ang conflict? That's very obvious. Conflict is the source of problems. Nganong naa may mga wilga, na may mga rally. That's because of conflicts. Conflict of interest, conflict of ideas, conflict of attitude. As long as it's conflict, you have to avoid it. Makiaway, makiglalis. That is why anapod musod ang katong gossiping. Ma-avoid na to ang conflict kung ma-avoid na to ang gossiping. Kay basically wala may pareha ba sa kana bitawng usay tawag gani kananay arestuhon ng pulis. Unya unsa na siya nga nakalimot lang ko basta kay nay tawag ana nga statement na mayngon nga you have the right to remain silent, anything you said can be used against you. So kung wala ka mag-gossip, wala kay something na gisulti, wala po'y ma-used against nimo. So na-connect na ninyo, and if you do, congratulations. So as you see, connected sila. Another thing is negative feedback. Okay man nga mag-feedback ka. Kung naay negative, find ways to lessen the burden ba. Kumbaga, yes, negative siya, pero there are ways in presenting a negative feedback nga dili kaayo siya bitaw damaging, no? So na diha you have to choose your words wisely. Better di na lang yung kamuhataw og negative feedback at all. Ana siya. So of course kitang tanan naagi tay aggression. Unsa nang aggression, sir? Kana bang ganahan ta nga pahibaw ta sa atong mga amigo or kabarkada, kaila nga musulti sila tinuod ba eh. Bati kog naong sulti tinuod. Pero kung inaon ka nga bati kag naong ma-offend ka, malain ka. I'm sure ka-relate mo. So yes, negative feedback pag nga lagi nga negative, maka-create siya aggression. So you have to avoid it. And finally, you have to avoid hesitance to ask questions or clarifications. So ayaw pagduha-duha gyud. Likaye nga magduha-duha ka og pangutana. Make sure you ask question if you don't really understand something, or if there is something vague, dili klaro, libog, make sure nga you will ask for clarifications. Now, these are the things that you need to avoid. So I hope with all those things nga akong gi-share sa inyo na amoy nakatunan, I hope nga naminaw mo niya mulinger ang mga thoughts sa inyong unahuna. Mulinger meaning mupabilin, mutatak sa inyong mga nahuna di kay pagkahuman ani nga webinar pangutanon mo sa daytoy gisulti ni Lumbay sa inyo, sa may gi-share ni Lumbay ninyo. Lumbay kinsa din na ambot unsa. So yes, mangingana nga butang. So I hope nga inyo ning timan-an because I truly believe nga dako ni katabang ninyo. Maybe dili ninyo diha dayon may ma-feel ang tabang ani nga mga piece of knowledge, but eventually as years go by or as your experiences in life grow, you will look back and you will say gisulti man dito tanan ni Sir Charles. Nakinumdum na ko nahisgutan na ni Sir Charles. Tinuod jud dihay. So if there is nothing to clarify, kung wala na tay mga butang nga angay pang hisgutan, I believe that wraps up all the discussion that I have to share to you today. Let's call it a day. Bye for now.